When I used to live in Pennsylvania, I used to live by a billboard, and that billboard said you should have a balanced diet. Of course, this billboard was actually a billboard for a donut shop, so a balanced diet in their mind was, well, a donut in each hand. And not everyone's going to agree that that's a balanced diet. I understand that. But there is something about balance that we like. And in this particular case, we're going to be taking a look at SMSL's HO200, which is a balanced headphone amplifier. I think you guys are going to really enjoy this, so let's go ahead and take a look at it right now. Now this is the SMSL HO200. You may notice that the name sounds a lot like the AO200, which I recently reviewed, which is the SMSL amplifier that I really liked. Now this is their headphone amplifier. Now this thing is pretty interesting. Let's go ahead and talk about some technical specs before we really take a look at it. This thing does 6 watts by 2 at 16 ohm and 3 watts by 2 at 32 ohm. It does have some gains, which we'll talk about a little bit more, but the pre-out impedance is 44 ohm for the balance and 22 ohm at the unbalanced. It does have input impedance of 10 kilo ohms and output impedance of near 0 ohms. Its THD plus N, which is total harmonic distortion plus noise, is 0.00006%. That's low. That's really crazy low. That means that it has a negative 123 decibels before you get to the THD and N. You're not going to hear it, which is fantastic. The other thing that I really thought was cool too about this is that they give you a frequency response. When they give a frequency response, they're talking about linearity, and they usually go plus or minus 3 decibels, and amplifiers usually negative 3 decibels. 20 hertz to 500 kilohertz, negative 3 decibels. 500 kilohertz. Typically, we rate things to 20 kilohertz. If you take a look at the testing that was done on this amplifier, you're going to see it's just a straight line all the way across, all the way up to 40 kilohertz. It's just really phenomenal. It's something you really want from any type of amplifier. You don't want it to change the sound that's going to it. You want the same sound that's coming into it going out. So I really do like the fact that it is very clear. I also like the fact that SMSL has included all of these testing equipments of it so that you can make an educated decision on whether you should buy it or not if you're interested in the testing data. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the amplifier, and I'm going to tell you my thoughts about it as well. If we take a look at the front, there's a couple of these toggle switches. There's an on-off toggle switch, a low, medium, and high gain toggle switch, and HPA and pre, that stands for headphone amplifier and pre-out switch, and it has an XLR and RCA. Why? Because this is a balanced headphone amplifier. This has both balanced inputs, balanced outputs, has balanced headphone outputs, and balanced pre-outputs. I mean, it is completely balanced. And that's the thing that I really like about this, is if you're going with a balanced setup, which I think is where this is mainly going to be targeted towards for you guys that really want to do a balanced setup. I love the fact that it has those XLR pre-outs on it. Those XLR pre-outs are very nice. You can hook it up to your next signal chain. You can just use this as like a pre-amplifier, flip your toggle switch over to pre, and send that signal to whatever your next device is in your signal chain. And I really like that. I think that's really cool. It does have, of course, unbalanced inputs for those that don't have balance. It has RCAs. On the back, though, the only other thing that you're going to notice really is a USB port. That's for service. It's nothing that you're going to actually use. There is, of course, a power toggle switch, and you'll notice that it just uses a power plug. And the reason why it uses just a power plug is because the power supply is built in. And anytime you get a nice headphone amplifier, that power supply is going to be built in. And the reason why is because then they can worry about the noise that's going to be going through the power supply itself. They can regulate all that. I really like that. And you're going to notice that on some of your higher end ones, they're going to have that built-in power supply. Everything on this is mechanical. Now, what I mean by that is all the switches are toggle switches, like we mentioned, but even the potentiometer is a mechanical potentiometer. That's the volume control. Now, the reason why that's interesting is some of your amplifiers now, as you're getting them, you can just keep turning the potentiometer and turn and turn and turn. And on some units, I really appreciate that. On this headphone amplifier, I actually like the mechanical potentiometer better. Now, it's very rare that I say that, but I do like it in this particular case. And here's the reason why. I am a husband and I'm a father. And occasionally people will come in and touch my stuff. And one of the things that you don't want with a headphone amplifier is to turn it on and it to blow out your eardrums, right? Or you don't want to turn it on and have it blow out your very expensive headphones. So the fact that they have this potentiometer on there and you can physically and easily see where your volume is, as well as where your gain is set at, whether it's low, medium, or high, you can easily tell before you turn it on whether you're going to get your eardrums blown out. All right, so let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about this. If we take a look at the front panel, there are 3 headphone outs. Now, there is a 4.4 millimeter. It looks like a 3.5 millimeter, the smallest one. It's not. It's actually a 4.4 millimeter, and that's a balanced output. If you want to use an unbalanced output, like a 3.5 millimeter jack, you're going to have to use the one next to it. Now, that one next to it is the only unbalanced output on it. That would be a 1/4 inch jack, or if you're metric, 6.35 millimeter. That is what you're going to most likely be using if you're going unbalanced. Now, what I want to tell you about that too is this does not come with the 1/4 inch adapter. So you need to have that or buy one if you want to hook it up that way. The other way, which I think a lot of people that buy this amplifier are going to be using, is the XLR, and that's a 4-pin XLR balanced output. And that's right there on the front as well. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about my experience with these. Now, I experienced this with a couple different headphones. I used just some gaming headphones, some cheap gaming headphones, because I wanted to see, like, did it even make a difference? Like, if I plugged this in directly to, like, say, a computer, and then I plugged it in to this, would it make a difference? Yeah, it did. I mean, it was crazy. Now, they're just like normal 16 ohm impedance headphones, and keep in mind, like, this right here at 16 ohm is 6 watts. So, I mean, it was more than enough wattage for that, and it really brought those things to life. Sounded significantly better than just plugging it directly into a normal computer or whatever you would normally plug those into. There was a lot more clarity, it was a lot more neutral sounding, and the bass itself was better. And one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is that there is a power dissipation. Now, what that basically means is that when an amplifier works, there's a power dissipation as far as where the power goes to. And a lot of it's going to go to the bass section. So the more power you have, the more the bass section is going to use. And so something like this SMSL, when I used my Bear Dynamics, which were the other headphones I tested with them, they're 80 ohm. Now, I actually plugged that up to high. Most people are not going to use high. They're going to use medium on that type. But I was using an unbalanced connection, so it was giving a little less gain. But the reason why I really liked it on high was because it gave it more bass. And I really appreciated that. Now, even on high, I barely turned. I mean, it was about a quarter of the way up, so it wasn't up high. But the other reason why I turned it on high is because I live in a very noisy household, or it can be noisy. I do have children and people running around. Then, you know, maybe if I didn't have them, I probably would keep this on mid. I probably would not keep this actually on high. But it is nice to have that headroom. Now, having said that, I didn't test anything higher, so no 200 ohm, no 600 ohm headphones. I can't say for sure how it would run on those. I think that if you had some good 200 ohm balanced headphones, it would have no issues at all. 600 ohm, I mean, you're definitely going to want it on high. I think it would once again power it. You can get more powerful headphone amplifiers if you want to at that. But I think in general, this thing is phenomenal. So clear. And one of the things I love about it too is it's silent. Like, the only way that you know this is on is when you hit that power switch and you see that blue light. Otherwise, it is completely quiet. Not only is it quiet when you plug your headphones in, but even if you leave this running for 24 hours, I ran this for hours one day just to see. Stayed pretty cool to touch. I mean, it was warm. It wasn't hot. It was warm. It wasn't hot. I mean, I know I've tried some other headphone amplifiers and they got hot. Brian knows what I'm talking about. He's one of my patrons. He knows what I'm talking about because we tested one of his out at our house and it got hot. And I know exactly what it is, but I'm not going to mention it. So not only is the circuitry clean and noise-free, but also the amplifier itself is noise-free, which is important to have. You don't want to have a bunch of fans blowing or anything else when you're listening to your music. You want to be just surrounded and right here. You don't need any external stimulus that when the music goes quiet, that you're hearing. So I really do appreciate that. Overall, I really like the SMSL. Now, I started a new page. This is a web page. I'll link it down in the description. That's going to go over all the amplifiers that I tested, headphone amplifiers, preamps, and we'll go ahead and take a look at the SMSL HO200 and see where it places. All right, well, there's nowhere else to place it but number one. So right now it's number one. I have 2 more of these videos coming out shortly of headphone amplifiers that I am going to be testing. So make sure that you subscribe to the channel, and I'll make sure to get those out to you, and we'll see where it goes on this list. Now, as I continue to add sections to this and continue to review different amplifiers and preamplifiers, you can go on here and take a look at those. So make sure you can bookmark this page if you want to. Just check it out. I think you'll really enjoy it. All right, guys, this is all I have for you. The SMSL HO200, if you are looking for a balanced headphone amplifier, I don't think you can go wrong with this. I think it is a very good amplifier, and in my testing experiences, it did really good. It is a neutral amplifier, meaning that the sound is very, very neutral. So if that's what you're looking for, I think the SMSL HO200 is something that you might enjoy. All right, guys, this is Toyd's DIY Audio, and I'm out.